Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's Daily Dose. This week, our theme is more God, less guilt. More God, less guilt. So think with me for a minute. Any of you parents out there, I want to know how many of you, for you who are parents, do you have guilt as a part of your parenting? Now, I'm not talking about the parent guilt, or sometimes we hear it referred to as the mom guilt you might feel. I am talking about the guilt you use as parents. Now, be honest with me. Think about this for a minute. How many times have you found yourself standing at the doorway, ready to go for the day, saying things like this? Okay, do you have your boots on? Do you have your mittens? Do you have your backpack ready? Come on, we have to go. All right, everybody, put the dog in the kennel. Look at the watch. Yep, it's time to go. And then that guilt moment. How are you going to feel if we're late for school? Be honest. That you've tried that, right? Or maybe it's at the dinner table where you've said something like this. Yes, this is what we're eating tonight. It's what your dad made. I know it's not your favorite, but eat everything. Yes, we're going to sit here until you're done with your vegetables. And then just think about all those kids all over the world who struggle with hunger. Have you tried that kind of guilt? Or maybe it's more of a winter guilt. Now, are any of you out there parents whose kids really hesitate to wear typical winter clothing? If you're watching on Facebook, please raise your hand so that I know I'm not alone. There's something about this winter clothing that is really hard for my kids. And last week in particular, on the day when it was like 30 below, when school was canceled because of cold weather, I had a winter battle with my 10-year-old. And it went something like this. All right, buddy, it's almost time for your indoor soccer session. Your ride's gonna be here soon. Would you run upstairs and put your soccer stuff on? Oh, and don't forget to put pants on because it's really cold outside. So he went upstairs and he got his stuff ready. He even put his shin guards on. And so I noticed that he still didn't have pants on. So I was a little more gentle this time, but still pretty specific. I said, hey, thank you for getting your soccer shin guards on and your bag ready. But don't forget, run upstairs and get those pants. 5 minutes later, still nothing. So I got down at eye level and I looked at him and I said, Yoren, I said in my most serious voice, Yoren, I am serious. It is cold out there. It is dangerous to go outside without pants. And that's when he kind of looked over my shoulder and he was thinking. And he looked back at me and he burst into laughter. And it kind of stunned me for a minute, but if you've ever heard Yoren laugh, he has this really contagious laughter. And so pretty soon, I was laughing, I was smiling with him, and he looked back at me and he said, kind of like a newscaster would say, kids, be careful out there. Do not go outside without pants. It is dangerous. And that's when I realized my guilt trip totally flopped. The attempt that I had used for guilt to get him to do something, it failed. Complete failure. And regardless of whether you are often that guilt giver or the guilt feeler, it backfires on us more often than we'd like to think, doesn't it? Think with me for just a minute about the typical idea of religion. It goes something like this. First, God has these rules or these laws that we're supposed to follow. Second, I'm supposed to live up to these rules and these laws. Third, if I live up to these rules, God will approve of me. God will love me. But then real life kicks in, and religion as usual goes more like this. Hey, I know there are some rules out there. I know God has laws that I'm supposed to follow, but I didn't. Actually, it was a colossal failure. I didn't follow any of them. God definitely does not approve of me. And in fact, God probably doesn't even love me. And guilt sneaks into this formula of religion that we think of, this religion as usual too, doesn't it? Maybe we guilt ourselves into feeling God's approval depends on what I do or don't do. If only I was a better Christian who didn't fail in living up to these rules, ... Or maybe we impose that guilt on other people. If only that person over there did a better job of living up to God's rules, their life wouldn't be so bad. But Jesus comes into this story and throws everything off. Jesus, God's only son, says to us, you're right. You will always fail in trying to live up to God's rules. But that's okay. It's not that God's law is bad. It's actually really holy, really beautiful. The law just sets the stage for us. It's not the end of the story. God sent Jesus into the world as a human just like us, who knew that we would keep trying and trying to live up to God's rules, up to these standards, somehow thinking we could win God's approval. But no matter how much we tried, it was never enough. And guilt kicks in, it takes over. But when Jesus died on the cross, that story of guilt was thrown out the window. Jesus says, no more guilt, only grace. Grace that is free and that is given to you over and over and over again. So tonight, I invite you to listen to these words from Revelation chapter 21. He who is seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. So tonight, write down the word guilt on a piece of paper, actually write it down, and think about those times maybe when you've felt that guilt, when you've given that guilt, and rip it up. Maybe cross it off and then rip it up. But write down the word grace. Write down that new word, grace. And remember, it's trustworthy, it's true, and it's for you. Thanks so much for watching the Daily Dose tonight. We would love for you to share this message or any of this week's messages with people who need to hear a little bit more about grace rather than guilt. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you're watching on channel 181, tell a friend. Let them know that they can tune in every night for the Daily Dose as well. Thanks so much.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies.